We'll call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Welcome to the Wednesday, May 15th Police Commission meeting. And we will start with a land acknowledgement read by Commissioner Dirk.
The Medicine Hat Police Service and its Police Commission respectfully acknowledge that we operate on ancestral territories of Siksika, Blackfoot, Kainai, Blood, Piikani, Pagan, Stoney Nakoda, and Tsuut'ina Sarsi nations, as well as the Cree, Sioux, and the Saulteaux bands of the Ojibwa peoples. We also recognize that we are on the traditional homelands of the Métis Nation. We honor the enduring connection of Indigenous peoples to this land and express our commitment to reconciliation and to understanding and respecting their rich cultures, histories, and contributions.
Thank you. Conflict of interest declaration. I kindly request each attending commission member disclose to the chair any perceived or known conflicts of interest pertaining to the agenda items outlined for this meeting. Seeing none. Okay. Tonight's agenda. Are there any additions or amendments, proposed additions or amendments for the agenda this evening? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Vice Chair Carolyn and Councillor Hirsch, all in favor? Unanimous? Okay. The April 17th, 2024 meeting minutes. Everyone's had a chance to review those. Does anyone note any errors or omissions to those meeting minutes? Seeing none, a motion to approve the April 17 open meeting minutes. Commissioner Johnson, seconder. Commissioner Robles, all in favor? Approved unanimously. Standing items, police budget update, Chief Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Service is currently, we had a small positive variance currently and projecting a negative variance at year end. We'll continue to report throughout the year, so the Commission's advised of where we're at on that, and we have things in place to mitigate the negative variance as we go along.
Any questions for Chief Murphy? Seeing none. AAPG report. Commissioner Dirk, did you want to share?
Sure. So I just got my email for attendance to the AAPG meeting. It is on June 10th. A number of us, 5 of us, had gone to the conference, and so Sarah asked me to do a brief report on that, and I'm hoping that the fellow commissioners who were there can correct me in anything I missed or omitted or just got plain wrong. So we went there, and the first session that I attended was the role of the chair, and it was really just all about Robert's Rules of Order, which was interesting. I learned a couple of things about Robert's Rules of Order that I didn't know before that I'll just highlight. So first of all, in a commission meeting, the Robert's Rules of Order are to be followed, but any strict enforcement to the rules is unwise. That was the rule of thumb. They were actually designed for groups of 1,000 people. I didn't know that, okay? The other thing was a code of conduct. If a commissioner breaches a code of conduct, that commissioner can be removed by the city if they're city appointed, or by the province if it was a provincial breach. Okay, and did you have anything else to add to that one? Okay, and that's all I'm going to say about that presentation. The next presentation that we went to, or we all attended, was the Building Alberta's Police Review Commission. Okay, it provided an overview of the work underway to create the new Review Commission. This was actually very interesting. This is considered to be an arm's-length agency that will intake, investigate, and determine resolutions to police complaints across Alberta. It also highlighted the process changes that affect most governing bodies. And right now, we are in phase 3 of this. Phase 1 was completed 2018 and 2019, phase 2, 2020 and 2021. In phase 1, the AAPG asked the government to examine improvements to the public complaints process, in particular, centralized body for complaints and a mechanism for including complaints against the RCMP, which they didn't have before. What am I going to say? The current state, the reason why this was asked for is the current state, there was a perception of bias. They thought it was punitive in nature, variance in the process, differences between the RCMP, First Nations, and municipal services, and multiple entry points. The future state will be more arm's length, standardized intake and assessment, formalized approaches for frivolous and vexatious complaint clients, opportunity to build restorative and reconciliatory approaches, and provincial consistencies, recognizing regional differences. Now, what I wanted to point out about this particular item was that at the AGM meeting the next morning, there was a resolution on the table by the commission, let me see if I can find this one. Yes, and I'm going to read this resolution because it's interesting in light of what we just heard. The resolution was passed. It was presented by St. Albert Policing Commission and Camrose Police Commission. They stated their belief that the elimination of the public complaints directors will not enhance public trust or provide a mechanism for the marginalized to be heard. They feel that the position of the public complaints director should be enhanced and used as a conduit to the public review agency or local police for appropriate and timely resolution. This would include reporting to the police and the review agency to show transparency and help build further trust in the processes. And this was passed by quite a majority. So the sense I received is that although it was the AAPG that asked the government to make this change in the complaints officer, they don't like how it was done, and so they're asking for it to be an amalgamation. Does anyone else have anything on that? Go ahead.
Thank you. I would just add that I think through the course of that presentation and the motion, it became very clear that while the government has that as a first point on their slide, that the AAPG asked for this, what the AAPG actually asked for was what you listed, and it was very limited in scope, and the government clearly took that much further than the AAPG was requesting. Perhaps there were others requesting more, but I think it was enlightening for me to recognize that, you know, the presenters were quite happy to put that on AAPG when what it sounded like the request was very limited in scope.
Thank you. I forgot about that point. Good. Thank you for that clarification. I'm on the resolutions now because the only other things were frivolous. The other one that was brought forward, the other resolution that was brought forward was by Tabor, and they wanted to direct the Federal Prosecution of Canada to bring in a law to increase the prosecutions for simple possession of hard drugs in Alberta. And this resolution did not pass for many, many reasons, but the one that sort of stood out for me is it was the wrong place to bring such a resolution. It actually should go to CAPG instead, if they want to do that. And it probably won't pass because it goes against the research. Another resolution that I thought was wonderful, because I have been on the commission for a while and I really feel like I'm constantly learning about this particular role, is a police governance certification program, and that absolutely passed. They want a really comprehensive, focused police government course for commissioners and boards, using a curriculum that's actually developed by experts from post-secondary institution who leverage current adult learning theory. It's supposed to be developed by the province, complete with curriculum and reference resources. This was passed. And the last one that was passed was brought by the Calgary Police Commission, requested guidelines to be developed to ensure that the Public Complaints Director has required knowledge, skills, and set of updated training for the position. All right, a couple of other things. I know we have a lot, so I won't tell you everything. The internal evaluation review, we talked about that earlier, so I'm just going to pass. Actually, what we are supposed to do is evaluate ourselves. So that's what that's all about. There was a sample assessment tool. And then there was a whole section I talked about already on how to review the policy. There was a really interesting presentation on the Indigenous Justice Centre of Alberta. This is created, the vision here is to reduce the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in the criminal justice system. And this work started in 2018, and I don't believe it is finished yet. There's a number of changes there, and I did include those changes in my report, so you can go there and read those. And I think that's all I have for an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dirk, and thank you everyone who attended. Did anyone else want to add anything on the AAPG conference? No. Commissioner Dirk was elected to the board of directors with AAPG, so she is now our, or a member and represents Medicine Hat Police Commission. So congratulations on that appointment, and I look forward to hearing more updates from you about what's happening provincially. So thank you. We'll go on to Office of the Chief. So Operational Services Report from Inspector Secondiak.
Thank you. There's just a couple of highlights I'd like to mention in my report. So the first one's under patrols on page 9 of your package. It's the first bullet, but it speaks to a 52-year-old male we were trying to locate with outstanding warrants. But behind this story, we were urgently trying to locate this male as he was a suspect on another matter of importance. So, but he already had this warrant out, so it's easier from a legal perspective to do a public notification on that warrant. So we put it out on our push notifications, our social media platforms, and I just wanted to give credit to Rita Sittler, who's here tonight, that manages those. It was went viral. We were able to get information from the public that the male was in a remote area between here and Redcliffe. I know he was arrested with canine present. There was no use of force there. The dog was present, however, and I know the male did have a weapon upon him when he was arrested. So just goes to show the power of social media and how effective our patrol teams are for locating people when it's exigent and we have to find someone for public safety. So great job by that on that patrol team. The next one is under DPU, or the Downtown Patrol Unit, on page 11. So just one highlight, you'll see, of course, in the total call volume, so it was 31 total calls in February and 41 in March, but it is getting warmer, so last month there was 63 calls for service in the downtown core. So we do speak weekly with Sergeant Bourne and the Downtown Patrol Unit. You'll see there is an increase in calls, but that does not correlate directly to an increase in criminal calls. So you'll note in the first bullet point that the typical calls they go to are nuisance, antisocial type behavior calls, so loitering, trespassing, suspicious people, garbage complaints, that type of stuff. So they do an excellent job at, I think, in communicating that downtown is safe, and if there is criminal activity that occurs, they're very quick to act upon it. So again, great job by our Downtown Patrol Unit. And then two more. The first one's on page 12, at the top of page 12, with our Forensic Identification Unit. This isn't a unit we report on frequently, but what they do is invaluable. So there's just a quick bullet here. There was no media release on this, that FIU assisted patrols with a break and enter into a garage. Long story, but they were able to get a fingerprint and identify a suspect, and that person will be charged when we're able to locate him. But it just shows the value of forensics. Not everyone has to be caught at the time. In fact, it would be nice if we could, but oftentimes there's DNA or fingerprints or clothing or other things that are left at a scene, and there are scientists. So they work hard. I know they were examining a stolen vehicle today at the office. So great job job by our FIU unit. And then lastly, I just wanted to talk about our bylaw, municipal enforcement section. And I just want to talk about the peace team. So you'll see on the bullet point at the bottom there, they had done 17 site inspections last month. I pulled more recent numbers yesterday afternoon. So I can tell you since their inception, they've been to 27 encampments. 18 of those were cleaned up and they're removed. 7 of them haven't reported yet, which means they have to go back to ensure that they're cleaned up. 1 was not applicable, so I know which one it was, and they went to it and they couldn't find the encampment, but we've had a couple of calls about it, so they'll continue on that one. And 1 was no concerns, it wasn't an issue. So we talked about it on the way here today, so just a very effective unit in what they do, and I think it's part of our downtown strategy, and it's working thus far. Those are the highlights from operations, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Councillor Dumanowski?
Yeah, through the chair, Inspector Sakoniak, I guess a comment and then maybe a small question. I appreciate the updates, and a lot of it had to do with things I wanted to kind of highlight. Most of council participated in a town hall the other week. The Downtown Collective and the Chamber put one on. And as you can appreciate, common themes, recurring themes around the vulnerable sector and interfacing the real and or perceived challenges or observances in relation to that. I appreciate that the strat plan or the downtown strategic goals that have been identified by the service are being socialized and well known to the participants. And I guess I just wanted to highlight the fact that that is a recurring conversation. I appreciate that the service keeps great data when it comes to the kinds of calls, but that most of them are not criminal. They are nuisance, I'll call them nuisance or bring to your attention type calls. But and then maybe I'll end with the question is, and I don't know this, does the team liaise with the Downtown Collective Chamber with some regularity? I guess I know that businesses can reach out to the Downtown Patrol and other things, but as far as some of the newer goals, how have you maybe modified or changed or pivoted into your data collection in order to meet those that new initiative that the service has identified for downtown?
Yeah, so I can say, and I know the chief goes to the meetings with the chamber as well, and I don't recall if they're every week or maybe perhaps once a month. So the Downtown Patrol Unit and the chief go to the meetings at the chamber. I went to one perhaps 2 months ago. So, and that's the exact opportunity for them to talk about issues and maybe new things that arise. And then, yes, we can be quite nimble and change our strategies if we have to. And we have KPIs on the strat plan now on the pillars we've created, but we can, again, pivot. We're quite nimble here and change those if a new problem arises. And I'm just very hopeful this year. I know DPU is doing a lot of septet analysis downtown. I think Sergeant Bourne said they were doing 3 in various areas in the city today. So they've proven to be highly effective, and we want to see more of that. So thus far, we're pleased at the plan. That's how it's come to fruition, but it's still not quite the busiest months of the year yet, which will be July and August. But we're hopeful with our continued efforts and the relationships that DPU has built that it'll be effective.
Thank you.
Commissioner, sir?
Okay, to the chair, to Inspector Sakoniak. Under your municipal enforcement section, I just have a quick question there on road safety. February, March, and April, over 200. Now, what do those numbers represent? 228 what?
They are a variety of issues. They're mostly parking tickets, but perhaps a month or 2 ago, we allowed municipal bylaw to start doing moving violations. We had never done that before, and that was on loud vehicles. So I don't have updated stats on those. So the number you see in April will include parking tickets as well as moving violations, but just specific to loud vehicles. But I was hoping to wait a month or 2 to get accurate data on loud vehicles, because I know it's a concern to the community, so.
Okay. I was wondering, I live in Somerset, and they just did the street sweeping. There's a construction project going on there, and I noticed there was a truck parked there for a few days, and then guess what? He had a ticket on his windshield because of the street cleaning. That must be one of the statistics then, right?
It would be, absolutely.
Yeah. So just as an add-on there for road safety, do you have someone in your division that says, you know, we've got a really bad area here, they need a crosswalk, or they need a flashing light, or they need no parking signs, or is that part of this municipal enforcement section, or?
Not specifically here, but we have 2 areas that would address the issue you spoke of. So we meet every Thursday at 11 o'clock and talk about intelligence, and part of intelligence is road safety and traffic. So the traffic supervisor brings up collisions, typically high collision areas.
Okay.
And we talk about enforcement at that locations, but Sergeant Fishley is the current traffic sergeant. He meets with municipal works in the city, I believe it's once a month, and he'll go over high collision areas, and they'll trying to address those with it could be speed spies to look at, you know, if speed calming techniques need to be introduced into an area, if different road designs can be made. I know on 2nd Street, they made some improvements. That group changed the speed limit in the downtown perhaps 2 years ago now to 40 kilometers an hour. So they constantly look at issues that we see typically through collisions, and then
Yeah.
make adjustments from that.
Yeah, so do the public have access to your department on that, or is it through municipal works if they see an area that is a concern?
It would be both. So if it was like as a result of a collision or a pedestrian was hit, absolutely call MHPS. But if it's road design or construction, that would be municipal works typically.
Okay, and what about crosswalks and flashing lights and stuff like that?
Again, we make recommendations. Actually, I got one yesterday about an intersection downtown that we're
Okay.
going to bring forward. But typically that's municipal works that does that.
Yeah, we've got a high density, not high density, medium density development going in our area there, and there's the crosswalks, there isn't any, and there's no flashing signs, and it's John Paul School is very close, and the kids
Yeah.
are all walking through there. It's a real
Yeah, it's a
And there's been
great opportunity to call municipal
multiple
works.
accidents on it because it's a curved road.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so I would just like to bring that up, but I'll talk to you about that. soon.
excellent. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Sir. Counselor Hirsch?
Just to elaborate a little bit and add some context, so I actually just literally did it. On the city's website, there's actually an area called Report a Concern. And then from that, if you click it, it actually literally talks about different areas, including outages, roads and sidewalks, gas utility, water and sewer. So in a combination of, there's different avenues that citizens can certainly do. But again, the response time on this Report of Concern is actually very efficient, so I would certainly recommend that. And what they do, and I've dealt with it in the past with a concerned citizen, they actually do, like as Inspector Secondiak indicated, they'll do a traffic count, they'll take a look in terms of the intensity and that sort of thing. So they will do a review and that sort of thing when it gets brought up, and then make some decisions there, because it does impact some budgets, so.
Any other questions? I had one, you answered one, so I was going to ask about the SEPTED uptake. I feel like it's becoming more known, and they are doing more of those, so that's great to hear. The cleaned up encampments, obviously people were living there. Do we know if they sought supports or where they went, what that outcome was?
I know that they're always offered supports, so I think out of all the encampments we went to, I believe the number was 8. 8 people were offered supports. I don't know how many accepted them or the recidivism rates if they're back on the street. I don't have that data. But it seems to be effective. They know who the peace team is now, like they see them coming. And all the members, I talked to our bylaw manager yesterday about it. Everyone's coming all the time. Like, it seems to be really good. The fire service has been there every time, housing, the Meossen Center. It's been excellent. So we're going to continue with it, and we'll have more data, I think, at the end of it to see if we could change something. But it seems thus far, I mean, it's still quite early to be effective at getting people access to housing.
I'm really glad to hear that. One last one. With it becoming summer, I'm just curious, do you know, last year statistically with events downtown, and I feel like the city's promoting more things down in Town Square this year, trying to really rejuvenate that downtown core. When there are big events, do we see any additional incidences or crimes associated with the homeless population, or do they tend to just go away?
We don't, I can't think of any stats that jump out at me. I could maybe look and get back to you, but typically it's usually safer downtown when there's more people there. Sometimes we have more resources. DPU often reschedules themselves to attend these events. And they're very good, again, at, they've built these relationships. And if there's somebody who's acting up, they typically approach them and can have a conversation and de-escalate. And so I can think of one or two examples, but they might be outliers of an incident that occurred. But generally, the more people down there, it's safer for everyone.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to Investigation and Support Services report from Inspector West.
Thank you. Just a few things. Page 13, just some highlights from our criminal investigation section. So we did have one file in April. The Canuck Golf Course golf club was broken into, and somehow somebody managed to remove a large safe. We did end up executing a search warrant and making an arrest and recovered all the stolen items. There was a lot of damage to the clubhouse, which is very unfortunate, but we did get the safe back and the contents. And again, this was one of those, patrols did a great job of securing evidence at the scene, but there was very little, usable evidence. And just some great investigation on this file, one thing leading to another, following the breadcrumbs, so to speak, as Staff Sergeant Graham would say. The next one is last month we had, you probably heard about the theft of mail. So several mailboxes broken into, just the ones, ones that we knew of in the region. As it turns out, there was more in the surrounding area of Medicine Hat. And on this one, our crime analysts did a lot of crime mapping on this one. And we did some, predictive work on it and had patrols in the area of where we thought some next targets might be, and it came up bases. So again, patrols did a great job of catching somebody red-handed with break-and-enter tools. That led to major crimes taking over the investigation, led to a search warrant, 2 search warrants actually, where a lot more evidence was discovered, and they've since continued the investigation. And that investigation is going to go on for quite some time, because there could be identity thefts and other things because of the nature of the mail that was stolen. So I have to tell you, when I get asked in community off duty sometimes, hey, did you catch, this is one of those files people ask you about, and it's really nice to say that, yes, we've charged somebody and we're hopefully going to charge some more. Just moving over to page 15, just sort of an interesting file from organized crime that every so often we do partner with Alberta Gaming and Liquor, so they do have investigators. They've got one based out of Lethbridge, so we did a joint operation with them with regard to stolen cigarettes. 167 cartons of cigarettes were recovered to the tune of about $30,000, and a couple of people charged with fraud. So just kind of a different sort of investigation that we did on that one. And just with regard to downtown and the CEPTED training, as far as the training this last month went, we did have 2 members go down or receive CEPTED training, so crime prevention through environmental design. And I know that they did a lot of assessments recently, and I think they've got, Sergeant Bourne was just saying they've got a lot more lined up for later on in the month. So incredibly successful, and you can see the evidence of it downtown. You kind of know the buildings where there's been a serious CEPTED mitigation, and they work. So, and that's all I have for investigation and support, unless anybody had any questions.
Commissioner, sir?
Just one question to Inspector Wester. That drug trafficking case, a 59-year-old male and a 34-year-old female, like, these are not teenagers. These are seasoned veterans of the trade, so to speak. And I'm just wondering, looks like a fairly big deal to me. Are those people out on bail the next day like you hear all the time, or are they actually incarcerated?
Yeah, I can't speak for the 34-year-old, but I do know that the 59-year-old was remanded in custody. Now, we kind of, we don't have any control over what happens
Yeah,
after that,
I
but was
understand.
remanded at the bail hearing, and you're exactly right. This was a good file, about 500 grams of cocaine, about 500 grams of methamphetamine. The 59-year-old is, yes, a long-standing, very durable drug dealer in the community, so it was really nice to get that one, make that arrest as well.
Yeah. So, is he deterred now, or is he just out doing the same thing again?
Based on the history that I know of, hopefully he'll receive some help when he's incarcerated if there's a conviction. But we have dealt with this individual over the last 30 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the chief's report with Chief Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a list of things that I participated in throughout the month of April. As well, last week, the Alberta Association of Chiefs of Police, we held our spring meeting in Edmonton last week. I was elected and confirmed as the Vice President for AACP for the next 2 years. And our IT manager at the MHPS, Aaron Sheard, he took over as chairperson of the IT committee for AACP for the next couple of years. So Medicine Hat has slowly taken over. And other than that, I can answer any questions for you.
Questions for Chief? Councillor Dumanowski?
Through the chair, thank you for that. Congratulations. Rattlers Run. Saw some photos. It looks like that was entertaining. Do you want to speak to that? Out of breath still, or all going good?
That was very good. I had my whole family run it with me this year. We had some other members that were out with their families. It was real good. So, yeah, it was, all I got to do is stay close to someone that's ahead of you and try to keep up with that person and get up the hill with them. So it was a really good event. Thank you.
Councillor Hirsch?
Just in regards to the presentation that was meant to, presented to council with Sergeant Bourne, feedback actually was fantastic over, and we talked a little bit about CEPTED. In fact, that was a bit of a catalyst, I know, talking to one individual in town where they recognize and appreciate the fact that we're looking proactively in terms of those sort of structures and some things that we can do to assist in terms of the congregation. We talk about loitering, et cetera, and that's some of the things that I think is, if we can continue the discussion in regards to making places not invite people to loiter, et cetera, I think is the right step. So again, it was well received, and I appreciate the presentation and the people that attended. Thanks.
And if I could offer one more thing. So the approach that's being used with the peace team, with all the expertise that all the different city departments and some other partners in our city provide, we're actually now using that same approach for the unsightly properties. For an unsightly properties team, same idea, different teams. So it's we're doing the exact same thing. We had a meeting about that today, and instead of people going out in silos like we've done for years, it's now the peace team approach under we asked Brent to come up with a different acronym, because he's good at that. And if you need acronyms, you only got about 6 weeks left to get them from Brent. So yeah, we're doing the same with the unsightly properties team now, and it's really good. So that's making a big difference. It's just, there's no more money involved, just a different approach with everybody involved. So it's really good.
Thank you. We have no new business on the agenda for this evening, so we'll move to community consultation. Okay. So before we open this session, we would ask that you kindly respect the following guidelines. I know you've heard them many times, but I'm going to read them for you anyways, Ian. Please note that complaints about officer conduct or MHPS policy or any details concerning ongoing investigation or personnel matters are not topics for this forum, as per the provisions set out in the Alberta Police Act. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to present your comments and questions, which will be directed to the chair of the commission, and the chair in turn may ask members of the police service to respond if appropriate. If that's acceptable to you, we now ask you approach the podium for your address.
Ian Parkinson. The police intelligence officers, if somebody has observed nefarious activity, who do they call?
I can answer that. There's a couple ways to get them. The easiest way would be to use our mobile application and submit a tip on that. There's crime tips, there's drug tips, there's bylaw tips. It will go to supervisors and be routed to those PIOs on each patrol team, and they'll get them within, depends when they're working, but almost immediately. So that's probably the easiest way. You could call in a call to dispatch too, but it might be more delayed. So I would use our mobile application available on Android and iOS.
Cool. And with regards to Councillor Ramona Robbins as the Chief Crown Prosecutor, what is a pre-charge assessment program? Is that like diversion?
No, Mr. Parkinson, pre-charge assessment is a program that was brought in by the province. It's not in all cities in the province. The 2 largest cities actually don't use it. And there's practical reasons for that, for the amount of charges that they lay on a daily basis. So what it is, we were, I believe, the first agency to take that on in the province. When one of our members is going to charge someone, before doing so, they speak with the Crown. It used to be when it was local here, they'd do that either in person or over the telephone. And the Crown tells them if the grounds they have formed for an arrest or the evidence they have, if that's suitable to move forward for court and to actually lay the charge, or if it's not and where they're lacking. So we've continued to be part of that program. There have been, the province has made changes over the years, and we're currently reviewing if we're going to continue with that program. It causes a lot of frustration with frontline police officers. Sometimes it's more of an online process now, it is an online process now with the Crown that's up in Calgary. And it's not the fault of the Crown that's in Calgary, but it used to be local Crown with local police officers, and now it's more an online process. And there's some lack of communication, which is probably the largest issue, and that causes frustration with our members when they don't understand why a charge is not being moved forward. So we're working through that. That's why I met the Chief Crown to get her opinions on where there's some breakdowns in communication, because my fear is, and our fear is, as our members become frustrated, they eventually stop trying. And that's not fair to them, because they're out there trying their best, and sometimes it frustrates them. So we're trying to alleviate that with conversations with the Crown, and that'll go on for a little longer. It's not just a Medicine Hat issue, it's an issue in every community in the province that's part of the process.
Okay. And one comment. I would like to thank the Police Service and the Police Commission for their stellar performance in keeping Medicine Hat safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parkinson.
Now we can go home.
So our upcoming meetings, we have a meeting Wednesday, June 19th here in City Council Chambers. We have one on here for July 17th, tentatively booked. We may or may not have that meeting, but definitely Wednesday, June 19th. And with that, the open meeting is adjourned.